Thanks for joining us for Baptist Press this week. This week, we have the opportunity to hear from one of the leaders in Southern Baptist disaster relief. Stay with us as we talk with Coy Webb about crisis relief and disaster relief through Send Relief. Well, Coy, thanks for joining us for Baptist Press this week. We're thankful for your work there at Send Relief.
Well, it's good. It's a pleasure to be with you today, Brandon. We appreciate the support of Southern Baptist, and it's always good to share.
Yeah. So you have been a pastor. You've led disaster relief in a state convention. Tell us a little bit about your role there at Send Relief.
Now, my new role at Send Relief, I'm still involved in crisis response. I'm the crisis response director here for Send Relief, and I've kind of got a unique position in that I am duly assigned to both the International Mission Board and the North American Mission Board. So basically, if a crisis happens anywhere in the world, I'm kind of connected to that in some way. Internationally, we primarily support company and national partners when there's crisis events, helping them have the resources to minister effectively. And then here in the States, our primary partner is Southern Baptist Disaster Relief, who we partner with to respond to crisis events across our country.
Now, how long have Southern Baptists been involved in crisis relief, disaster relief, and that type of relief work?
Now, officially, it began in the mid-1960s, and we celebrate our 50th anniversary just a few years ago. So a little over 50 years that we've been involved in this, and have developed a rich legacy. We are one of the three largest volunteer disaster relief entities in the United States. The only one bigger than us is the Red Cross, and then us and Salvation Army are about equal in our capacities.
Tell us a little bit about the gospel focus of the work that you all do.
I think that's what makes us unique. I think we like to say that we like to do two things. One, we want to offer practical help when people are hurting. But the second thing that makes us unique is we also want to offer the hope of Christ to those people because we believe the greatest crisis in the world is lostness, and that people have not yet had an opportunity to know the God who loves them and created them for a purpose.
Yeah, this relief work, I mean, it really gives Southern Baptist an opportunity to step outside the walls of their church buildings, sometimes to step outside of their own communities and make an impact for Christ. Share a little bit about that, just about the way that this work affects the witness of not only Southern Baptists, but Christians, our Christian witness.
You know, I think it's so important. It's not good or bad, but we are, I think, at a different time culturally. And for whatever reason, there seems to be many people across our culture today that either have negative feelings or maybe uncertainty about the church and who we are and what we represent. And I think as we come in and offer practical help, it builds integrity for the gospel, so that when we share, it's like, those people really do care. They really did help me in my time of crisis. Maybe it is worth listening to them. And I think what we're all able to share, most importantly, and we do this not because we just care, but we do this because there's a God who cares about you, and He's concerned about your loss and your hurt or being wounded. And so I think it gives a great opportunity. I think one of the great things, I was a pastor, and the last few years I was a pastor, I know going door to door, doing visitation night. I'm not saying we shouldn't do that, but I had found it had grown increasingly difficult to do that. And one of the things I've loved about disaster relief ministry, it's rare that you'd knock on somebody's door after a disaster and you say you want to help, but they don't open the door. Mm-hmm. And they're glad to see you. They maybe aren't yet interested in the gospel, but they're glad to see you, which gives us an opportunity, if we do it appropriately, to also then share with them about this God who loves them.
Yeah, there just seems to be something central about that work, about meeting people at their, I mean, you all see people at their most needy moments. I mean, the times in their lives when they've lost everything, when they're grief, despair, hopelessness. What are some times, maybe a time that sticks out that you've really seen God work and just the right people at the right spot at the right moment.
I still remember a situation after a flood in a particular small community, and I happened to be there with the team, and we were working on a home, and one of our volunteers saw an older gentleman sitting on the porch next door to where we're working, and it was obvious he was just weeping. He was just shaking back and forth with his head in his hands, and she went over and began talking to him. When he found out we were Christians, he was not real interested in that. And in fact, basically said he didn't need our help. And she came and got me, and we began sharing. He eventually decided we could help him, but I'll never forget his words. But he said, "You're in charge here. I don't want to hear any of this Jesus, and I won't share the words he added with that." But it was amazing. And over a couple of days, he was pretty true to that. Every time Jesus or God was mentioned, I'll just say the language and some of the things you heard were not the thing most of us like to hear. But I'll never forget on the last day going in to say, could we at least pray with you before we left? And he agreed, which almost surprised me. But then when we got out, he said, I need to tell you something before we pray. He said, I had wondered where and the blankety blank God was and all this. He said, I found him this week in you all. And that same gentleman who probably was almost ready to tell us to go away, but because we helped him practically, later that third day and that last afternoon, two of our volunteers led him to Christ on the front porch of his home, and he was baptized a couple weeks later. And again, I know this, he would have never let me in on a pastoral visit, but because we were there in his moment of need and began with practically helping him, it eventually opened the door where we could share the gospel in the right way with him.
Yeah, and those are the kind of stories that motivate the disaster relief volunteers, the crisis relief volunteers to sacrifice on lots of different levels. I mean, that's what makes them get up in the morning, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. I think they I think most disaster relief now, they have a heart for people, but then they also have a deep passion for Jesus, and they put that together to serve him in the worst moments. And I think he makes them unique because most people are running from the disaster, and these volunteers are running towards it to help people.
Yeah. Well, so in fairness to those watching along with us, Coy, we both served in Kentucky, and you were the disaster relief director while I was a pastor in Kentucky, and then we served together at the Kentucky Baptist Convention. And so I was certified. I have my yellow hat and yellow card. I've re-upped it since. But you led a training that I attended, probably 10 years ago, I guess, maybe more than that, the very first time. So I'm going to ask you some questions about the very practical nature of DR work, and just trying to throw out that this is what DR is, this is what folks do, and so just give us almost like a lightning round, So just short thoughts here on what this work is. I want to start first, maybe with something that gets overshadowed sometimes. Tell us just a little bit about the chaplain work that's done there in the response teams.
Yeah, chaplaincy is important work because, again, people's greatest need is their spiritual need. And so chaplains, I think, come in and just sitting and listening to people provide the beginning of healing. We've learned something, disaster response. Generally, the first step of healing is for people just to be able to tell somebody who cares about them what they've been through, their story in a sense. And chaplains provide that listening ear. But then as they listen to people, it does often open the door for them to share about how God can bring healing, how he can bring hope even in the midst of their loss. So a very important ministry.
Very good.
And I would say one thing unique about chaplains, most of our chaplains are volunteer chaplains. So you don't have to be a professional chaplain. You don't even have to be a pastor to learn how to be an effective chaplain.
Yeah, and we should say everything that we're about to talk about, including chaplains, that there is training provided for every one of these roles. There's actually training required for every one of these roles. That's right. Yes. So, okay. Thinking about a disaster, obviously we want chaplains there to care for people, to come alongside and help. One of the first things you need is chainsaw crews because there has most likely been some kind of a disaster, and there may be all kinds of debris that needs to be cleared so that folks can get back to their homes or get wherever they need to go for help. Talk to us just a little bit about a chainsaw crew. A
chainsaw crew has two different roles. One is the actual chainsaw operators who are cutting trees, cutting branches, limbs that have either blocked someone's access to their home, or sometimes it's actually cutting it off their home so that they can begin doing the repair work they need on their home. But I would also say you can be part of a chainsaw crew and never use a chainsaw, never use the actual chainsaw, because you need at least 2 or 3, as many people as chainsaw operators, to pull all that debris away for homeowners too.
That's good. And then how about once folks get inside their home, the mud out crews?
Mud out, it's basically cleaning up that home after a home has been flooded. Everything that flood water has touched generally has to be torn out because it's going to have mold issues if you don't tear it out. So it's tearing all that out so people can rebuild. And then also sometimes it's literally cleaning out the mud or cleaning up that flood water in a home.
Yeah. Now those folks, as they're very practically hands-on, they need support. The community needs support, and disaster relief is set to do that. One of the ways is through feeding teams. And so talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Southern Baptist, probably of all things we do in disaster relief, we're most well known for our feeding. It's not unusual for us to do over 1 million meals a year in crisis response through our kitchens. We have outdoor mobile kitchens, and those volunteers cook meals, generally in the thousands per day. It'd be rare that would be under 1,000. Not unusual sometimes. Some of those kitchens can do as many as 20, 25,000 meals. But you're doing mass feeding for those that have been affected, and food is one of the things we have to survive. So it always meets a critical need. There's a kitchen in Eastern Kentucky today that's providing meals in the Whitesburg area.
And that unit is completely self-contained, right? I mean, they roll into town with everything they need to provide for folks.
Everything that you need to prepare meals on that kitchen. And again, I would encourage people, you don't have to be a cook to be in our kitchens. There's lots of different roles. You need people to open cans. You need people to carry inventory, and even cooking when you're doing mass feeding. A lot of it's just stirring in large cooking vessels. So a great opportunity even for untrained people in the kitchen. They can be part of that.
Okay. Another need that folks have is laundry. And so there are a number of Southern Baptist laundry units across the country that respond. Talk a little bit about those.
Laundry is exactly what it says. We have trailers that have washers and dryers in them, and it's taking that laundry that often in flood situations where, if you can imagine, particularly those who are poor in a flood situation, if everything you had has been under flood water, that all has to be washed. And think about going to a laundromat if you're limited on your income, how that could devastate you. And so those units, people bring their laundry, they put it into a plastic bag, and then wash those clothes and dry them and fold them, and then with that name on that bag, they give it back then to that individual who's been affected afterwards. But it can really tremendously help someone who maybe is on a limited income.
Okay, so chaplain work, chainsaw, mud out, feeding, and laundry are the ones that I thought of. What am I missing?
We also have mobile shower units. In fact, there's a mobile shower unit at West Perry High School in Eastern Kentucky today that's allowing public showers. And you might think, well, what do you do as a volunteer in that? Well, you monitor the showers, but if you think about the public using those showers have to be cleaned regularly if public use. So a lot of what you'll be doing is after several people take a shower, you go in and clean it so that it's clean and fresh for the next person out of the public who needs a shower.
Okay. So if someone's watching and they're interested in learning how they can serve on a disaster relief team, or maybe they're in a small church and we don't have enough for a team, but we'd love to join up with others. What are the first steps for folks to learn more and to take the next step to serve?
I would encourage you. One of the great things about disaster relief, every Southern Baptist State Convention has a disaster relief ministry. It's one of the few things across Southern Baptist life that's consistent in every state convention. I would encourage you, contact your state convention, and they can put you in touch with your state disaster relief director, who can get you connected in trainings. One of the reasons I would encourage people to get trained is it doesn't take a lot of training to be a disaster relief volunteer, but a little training can help you to deploy in the right way at the right time, and to know when you show up, you're there for a purpose and you've been connected in a good way. and they will connect you. You can also contact Send Relief. We'd be glad if you're not sure how to connect with your state convention. We can help you get connected as well.
Well, know that we're grateful for the work that you're leading and that you all are doing, and we're certainly praying for you as you are faithfully on the front lines, caring for people at their greatest point of need.
Well, thank you, Brandon. Again, we just want to, we hope that we're meeting needs and changing lives through the hope of Jesus Christ.
Thanks for joining us for Baptist Press this week. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You'll find us by searching for Baptist Press. And make sure to sign up for our daily emails. We send an email in the afternoon and in the mornings full of the latest news from Baptist Press. Just go to baptistpress.com. There you can find all of these resources and read today's top news.